Hey everybody, it's Irene with BrainStorm Acres, and obviously I'm in the studio. Hate that noise, but it's one of the realities of working with a compressor in your shop. They do sell quote-unquote silent ones, but they're ridiculously expensive. And I seriously doubt they're silent. They're just a lot quieter. Again, I have one surface imperfection on here, so I'll fix that. Everything else was flashing, which I have removed. That hole could be better. Fix that. Cut that short. Now, I'm just using sticky wax at this point. And I never trust sticky wax completely. There's a cross that needs to go in there, so I might as well sort a couple things at once. Cross. I really want to make a ton of those crosses, so I did a bunch of them because I sell them really well. They are quite beautiful when they're done in silver, and I really like them. Silver with enamel work on them, just gorgeous. Perfectly suitable for everyday wear, as they say. Plus, they are authentically period, too, for those of us who do historic reenactment. So it's a nice combo. Thing, I can see you and I can't get you out. I don't want to break the waxes. You have to be careful how rough you are with this stuff because you can bust it. You do want to do that. That's particularly a problem as the temperature changes over the course of the years. I actually have two different colors of wax here. I have blue and I have red. And red is great in the winter time. It will get brittle if it gets cold enough. But generally speaking, it's pretty good. When it gets to be really hot in the summer, stuff gets too soft and it becomes problematic for me to work with. It mushes easily, and that's not cool. So then I have to switch to the blue, which I really don't like because it's more brittle. But like right now here, this piece, because it's cold, super brittle. But it works better in the summer. Some of the flashing is in the holes, so I'll take that off too. Because I want nice clean holes that I don't have to try and re-drill. That's kind of a pain, and sometimes you wear out your drill bits. It's more labor, and sometimes you break the piece if you're too rough with it. Smooth the surface in a couple of spots with the wax pen. Now this wax pen is hot, and if you touch your fingers with it, it hurts. It doesn't usually blister you, but I don't highly recommend it anyway. And I suppose you could crank it up to the point where it would blister. Now all our holes look right, all our flashing is off. Let's cut this bottom sprue much shorter. And sometimes the wax decides to fly off in random directions. I'm going to keep doing this until it's full of waxes. Try not to spend too much time on these things. So if I have enough of the waxes to skip a couple of the messy pieces. Sometimes you get in a hurry when you're doing this stuff and you're like, I didn't see that mistake. But this is where you're supposed to catch all mistakes. And if you're careful and you wear a good optimizer, you usually can catch most of them. Will something get through? Yeah, probably, but shouldn't be much. You really want to have as high a percentage as possible of your cast pieces being perfect. And normally I get a pretty high percentage. The last casting, we had a problem with the moisture level in the studio, and we're pretty confident that that's what screwed some stuff up. We just had too much moisture in the investment, and yeah, we had a few minor messes and some pieces that should have cast that didn't. If they had cast, I would be way farther ahead on my project right now, but they didn't. So you can either cry about it or you can just move on. Okay, I have 6 little trees. Each one of these things like this is called a tree. So 6 times 3, 18. 18 little mounts there. They've all been glued onto the base with sticky wax. I'm now going to go in there and hit them with a little bit of this regular harder wax, just to make sure they're thoroughly on there. Some people don't do this. I have better luck in terms of not screwing things up when I have them better glued on. So let me do that. And a lot of times I'll spot some issue in terms of the way the sticky wax has been attached or any kind of thing like that when I'm doing this. And I can fix it now before you wind up with a piece that doesn't cast right. So, now, there they are. They're all set to go. 18 little guys, little cute stars. Mounts is what they'd be called. Ready to go. These will go over to the weighing table, where there's a number on the bottom here. It says 44.7. That's the weight of this base with the wax inside the center here. No, by itself, without the wax inside the center. It has, let me see if I can show you one. Okay. When you start with this whole process, you've got something that looks like this. And this one this is clean completely, and it has been weighed on a nice little gram scale weight scale over there that I have, and it says 38.6. So that is the weight of just this rubber thing. When you're doing this, the first thing you do is you fill up the center with wax like that, and then you put the little sprued pieces on it, and when I take it over here, that number there is how much this individual piece weighed. It's very funny because they look alike, and some of them are pretty close in terms of weight. That one is 39.7. This is 38.3. This is 38.1. These are grams, by the way, which is not a number that most of us are that accustomed to using. 39.7. And so I know what this weighs before I go to the scale. Now I go to the scale. Okay, here we are over at the weighing bench. And this is my gram scale. It's an Ohaus triple beam scale. It's got grams only. It's not any fancy digital things. I've had it forever and ever. And what I will do is I will write the information down for this. So this says 44.7. So on my notebook it will say base equals 44.7. And I will put this on the gram scale. And now what I am doing, because I know that number is actually the rubber, what I'm going to get a number for is just how much that wax is. So, let's see. That's what I thought I'd be able to do this. Easiest solution. Turn it off for now. I don't need it right this second. Okay, so what I have done is I now have, using my gram scale, you just simply slide these guys out. This is the kind of scales we used high school and college for chemistry. I'm sure they have fancy digital scales now, but they're actually incredibly accurate. Not as fancy as some of the diamond scales and stuff are, but good enough for most of this kind of stuff. And we use these in chem class when we were measuring out our reactants for, you know, chemistry experiments. Anyway, so I have my 18 star mounts in here, and I've written that down in my notebook. I have the base weight, which is 44.7, and I have the total amount, which is the wax and the base weight, which is 54.2. And that will allow me to do the math to figure out how much metal I'm going to need to melt to fill this once this is turned into a mold. So this now gets a little case called a flask. There's a brand new one. These are the shortest ones I have, I believe. Yes, they are. So I will flip this guy upside down, stick him in here. Push on it to make sure it's all the way in there. Everybody's fine, nobody's hitting the walls. Then I'm going to stick a piece of tape around this, like this. This is painter's tape. And what it's going to do is when I fill this to the top and I put it on that vacuum machine that I repaired the other day, it will keep the boiling investment from splashing out and making as big a mess. It'll direct any splashes straight up instead of allowing them to boil over the sides. Then this gets a number on it because this is number 2 in my book. And now the wax is ready to be set aside and invested. And the investment is simply a plaster-like substance which lives in a large container under there. For this I do have a digital scale, and I have showed you guys how that works before. But there we are, little guy all ready to go. Hopefully in about another week, that will be 18 star mounts, ready to get all polished and shiny and pretty. So, I obviously have a few flasks all ready to go here, and I'll be doing the same thing as them that I just did with this guy. They've already been anchored to a bottom wax. I have the number there. In this case it's 38.8. These are much heavier. It's just 38.8. $39, 59 rather, sorry. 59 is what the total weight on that is. But other than that, it's the same concept. I have multiple sizes of flasks, and I'll find one that is tall enough. The goal is to always have at least a ½ inch of wax over the top. This would be too short, so I'll have to go up one. That means I'll have to use more investment, but I want a good quantity of investment up over the top of that wax, because that's what's between me and blowing out a flask, which is what happened last time. That flask blowout last time was not caused by insufficient investment. It was caused by investment that was wonky because of too much water. But smush that guy like that. You can see now there's a good quantity of space above him. He's got a solid inch above him. I like on the heavier pieces like this to have more investment between where the metal is going to go and the top of the flask. Again, it will get tape. And there is some art to this in terms of knowing when you could probably be a little on the stingy side and when you can't be. When you have a piece like this, it's really important because it's a special order and I'm trying to get it finished. I tend to play on the conservative side, shall we say. So it gets its number, and these will go over into storage over there until they're ready to be used. This guy, this is thimbles, and I'm trying to remake some of my masters because I have not had my molds got a little old, and that happens. So these guys will be in something like this. That's a much shorter one. Same process. And these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, 8. 8. I'm going to write that down as 8 new ringmasters, because I'm trying to get that to be good enough that I can make new molds with them. So I have improved the quality of the waxes, and I'm going to cast them into metal and then do any cleanup on them and then remold them with a different mold compound. Gets complicated sometimes. And number 4. So be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because obviously I have a ton to do. A full burnout kiln is going to have 16 on the bottom layer of this size flask, and I will probably do an additional 4 on the top layer, maybe more, but probably 4. I will actually, because I have only double stacked once before, I will probably hand arrange it in the kiln and decide exactly where I want everything to be. That's what I did last time, and that did work. And we're going to give it another shot and see if the double stacking is what's causing us problems, or whether it was just random junk last time. So, until next time, bye, and keep brainstorming, because obviously I am, and I know Henry is too, because he's working on a bunch of projects this morning. So, bye!